Right, here we go. Right, hi there, folks. It's Jonathan Denwood. Thank you for joining this webinar with Spencer Foreman. This is session 3. It's been a 3-part webinar where we've been diving deep into WordPress and marketing automation. I'm really looking forward to this final session. And over to Spencer, and we're going to go straight into it.
Yeah, short and sweet. Welcome, everybody. I hope you've been here before and you're just joining us to get the last of the 3 sessions. But if not, and you're watching on the replay, just be sure to go back and click the links to watch the session 1 and 2 videos where we're talking originally about how to identify your stack in a modern WordPress membership site of the plugins and other components you need to achieve all the things that you would normally want, including the benefit of marketing automation. We then talked in the second session about how to configure that stack in a way that was maybe a little surprising because it left out a lot of the old-fashioned ways of having one plugin that does everything. Today, we're going to talk about some strategic things for launching your stack to operate your business, whether it's for an e-commerce business or membership, or something to do with just automatically tracking the user's journey. You want to do things strategically based upon today's reality. So we're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be very brief on the educational end, and then we'll have the Q&A if any of you guys want, either from Jonathan or from the audience. And we encourage you guys to just hang in there, have fun, enjoy your coffee. Okay, so what I'm going to do, John, this time is I'm going to actually turn it into full screen, and that way we'll talk on the screen in a minute, but let's just do it this way and I can do the video. So let's dive in. First of all, today what you're going to learn is how to launch your new stack. The stack is the things in the plugin. Well, I should say, think of it like a pancake stack. You have a stack of plugins that achieve the same goal in a WordPress environment that you would normally get if you went to a hosted SaaS platform, right? These are the features available. But today we want to talk about 3 key components that I'll go into. Number 1, the drip emails are no longer what you want to use for nurturing. And I'll explain what nurturing is. They're instead for notification. Something cool and awesome is now happening on your WordPress site. Number 2, your website is like a health club. If you walk into a health club today, I don't know, they used to have Bally's health clubs. Now they have maybe a bunch of different varieties. There's going to be a lobby with a desk, and somebody's going to welcome you in so you can see, oh my gosh, the pools and the bikes and the yoga studio and everything else available. But first you have to talk to the person at the membership desk to get your pass to come in. And we want to make your website work like that. And then finally, you're going to personalize the journey of each individual prospect to try to more easily turn them into buyers. Nobody has the time to waste anymore to figure these things out themselves or play whack-a-mole with your website navigation. You need to specifically put in front of somebody the exact same thing they want to see at the exact time they want to see it to stand a chance of keeping their attention. That's the world we live in. So, number 1, you want to do these things primarily to avoid wasting people's time. There's nobody who will tolerate shenanigans today, right? We live in a world where there's, I think, 5 or 6 major companies that consolidate content on the video or television screen. Like you got your Netflix and your Amazon Prime and HBO Max and you got Hulu. Why? Because the companies who make content realize it's easier to give it all in one spot for one price per month. So everything is just a click away. And if they do that, people will stick around and ultimately spend more money than if you force somebody to bounce around to separate sites to get everything they want. Number 2, email is just too noisy. If you were to ask me, Spence, what would I be better off doing? Sending somebody an email or writing out a postcard, an email, and sending through the snail mail a postcard? I'd say you'd be better off waiting a week till they got the postcard with maybe the URL of your website or your phone number on it, because at least then it'd be like one of the few things in their mailbox versus the email box, which probably has thousands of things a day vying for their attention. So we want to talk about how to use email in a selective way so you don't get caught in the noise. Personalizing the journey is using what's called marketing automation as well as sales funnels, so that instead of the metaphor of a Home Depot where somebody shows up and they're required to figure out what aisle is the tool I need for the screw that attaches to the whatchamagiggy. First of all, people don't understand your business or your products until they've had a lot of time to go through your website. In a traditional shop, you're asking them to do a lot of work to figure out your business just for the one thing they need. A better way to do it is using sales funnels and marketing automation. That way, somebody comes in a specific direction, you basically learn the specific things they need from you by a series of maybe 1 or 2 key questions, and you immediately direct them to where they can get that thing and pay you money, and then follow it up with things like a thank you page or an upsell and so forth. So you're literally like a concierge who meets them in the parking lot and says, oh, hello, Jonathan, you need a toilet, seat today? Let me walk you over to that aisle and show you which one you need because of what you said is important, and so forth. Drip emails. Those have been traditionally used and abused for nurturing. That is to say, nurturing means you take somebody who's a lead or a prospect and you educate them as to what you do. But in the past, it was recommended to use emails for that because emails used to be not so noisy and it used to be free and cheap and all the rest. Well, now emails are about the noisiest thing possible, so you're never going to get anywhere teaching somebody through a channel that they're likely to ignore most of your messages. Or worse, just get annoyed with you for bothering them that way. Oh, thank you, Jonathan Denwood, for sending me 65 more emails today that I didn't really want to see in the first place. Instead, as we'll talk about, you're going to send them to the place, like the health club, where they can get the thing they want. Oh, Jonathan, you wanted the Peloton class. Come on in and take a left. So using your website like a health club with a membership desk is a concierge-like experience where you can see that Spence or the new prospect made it to your website, that they actually came in and they actually did go to that page or post or course that you know they wanted because they said they wanted it, versus torturing them and making them read through 1 million drip emails, or worse, go through your horrible old-fashioned navigation. So this is a really, really powerful metaphor. Think of the person sitting at the desk of your health club, and when somebody new walks in, hi, sir or madam, what can I do for you? Oh, I know who you're at. You look familiar. You want the Peloton class. It's over there. And by the way, here's your free, pass for today and tomorrow, just as a courtesy. Okay. So by using sales funnels instead of a shop, and the sales funnels come through using WooCommerce and our Launch Flows plugin, you're able to basically turn any page or post or even a lesson into a sales opportunity. But because it is adding to the convenience factor, it doesn't feel like it's a sales pitch. It's sort of like if, John, I asked you, what's your favorite movie, or what's a great beer, or what's happening in Nevada? You would give me advice, and I trust you because you're my friend, that you would basically save me a lot of time and trouble from having to figure this out myself. And that's what you want to do with the people on your website, is you want to encourage them to come and get the advice from you based upon the information they share with you about what they should do or buy or see or click. So step 1, and again, this is a repeat of what we talked about because it's so basic now. We've really simplified it. WPLaunchify.com is where we have created, it's still in beta and it's improving, an automated questionnaire. And it's not like a robot. It's a questionnaire that's legitimately designed to give conditional responses to learn what you're trying to accomplish with WordPress for your business. And in doing so, you're going to self-identify the things that would be part of your stack. And we're just going to give you a report and a listing so that you can go off on your merry way and do it on your own. But you might also want some help, okay? Step 2 is, if you're inclined, we offer a free discovery call so that if you did get a list and you had questions about which plugins are on that, you can get the kind of advice that you'd appreciate. No cost, no obligation, but basically like consulting with a professional architect or an engineer or a professional in the medical field. You can get enough information to realize whether this is a project you can undertake on your own or whether you want to enlist the help of somebody with a higher level of knowledge, like from my end at WP Launchify, or maybe you want to also enlist, like John's company, somebody to actually execute for you and be sort of like the metaphorical contractor who does the work under the supervision or under the cooperation with the higher level architect and so forth. And this is a way for many smart business owners to really shortcut their way around the endless number of two problems. One is the Frankenstein monster problem, where you go off and try to assemble it yourself, but because you have no knowledge otherwise, you put together a couple things that are conflicting. And it's scaring the townspeople, and you ultimately have to go after it with a torch to start over. Or number two, you have shiny ball syndrome. Like a golden retriever, everything looks good in the WordPress ecosystem. So you go off and buy everything, and you spend a fortune on stuff you don't need, or that, again, creates your own Frankenstein monster. A discovery call avoids all of this in just a couple minutes of time. And then finally, you might consider, as I just suggested, that after you learn for free which plugins in the stack, and if you had a call to clarify which and why things would work better than the not, a good majority of people go ahead and either do a strategy call or technical demonstration, which allows them to see firsthand an actual working implementation of what they're talking about. We typically will use a sandbox site so that we can just say, hey, here's a stack of everything you need ready for you to play with. And if you want to do it on your own, cool, but we'd rather just have you let us show you, because we've done this so often. We're approaching 40,000 clients and customers over the last 15 years that in 1 hour, I can typically grab the mouse, do a Zoom screen share, and walk you through like Mr. Miyagi and the Karate Kid. Wax on, wax off, sand the deck, paint the fence. You will become the expert in understanding what the actual product or project is that we're going to do, because most of the time, the basics of it can be shown and snapped together in that short of time. Now, if you have a larger project or you need a contractor, that's where John's company comes in, and they would be able to execute with the same level of care and concern and understanding about how we want to use certain plugins that cooperate and have this mindset of the modern stack versus using the old-fashioned stuff where, one plugin tries to take over everything, and then it interferes with all the work that the other plugins that are modern are trying to do. If you think of it like how a modern computer or phone typically uses the same standard USB cable to talk to other devices or to charge, you understand that by collaborating in that way, all these plugins can work really well together, but not necessarily because they were written for each other. They just cooperate across this common language. So if you have any questions, we're going to do Q&A here, of course, but you can always reach out to me at help@wplaunchify.com in order, to get some follow-up. In other words, the things that we're talking about. But what I'd like to do is I'll put this on the screen back to the slide of the beginning, and we can talk about more elaboration on these particular topics if it's helpful, in addition to any questions that John might have. Let me put us back to the shared screen here. Okay, I promised it would be fast. This was not designed to sort of take up your whole day. This was sort of a lunchtime, have a quick cup of coffee and learn something new. We've got a few questions going on here, I see already. So do you want to read them out, or you want to ask questions first?
Well, he's asking about Astra or Cadence. Astra. Which one would you recommend, Spencer?
Yeah, let's talk about that, because that's actually an interesting example of how the evolution of WordPress as the underlying CMS would give people some cool new choices. So in the old days, and I'll answer the question directly, but let me give it a foundation. In the old days, a theme was really important for not only the look of a WordPress website, but for a lot of the functionality. And what has happened is that WordPress and Automatic have started to push Gutenberg as the default editor / page builder, while at the same time there's lots of third-party really popular page builders. Elementor being one of them, Divi, Beaver Builder, and Oxygen, and so forth. What that means to the theme is the theme gets pushed down a layer. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If you were using anything other than Gutenberg, my answer is definitively just use Astra and don't use any of Astra Pro features. Just use Astra, set up your defaults for the buttons, for the page sizes and layouts, and then use your page builder, like let's call it Elementor or Divi or whatever, for all of the other stylistic aspects on top. On the other hand, what Cadence is doing, which I really appreciate, is it's trying to make the default editor of Gutenberg into something that is powerfully complemented by the features added to the Cadence theme. For example, the ability to create a color palette or the ability to predefine certain blocks and so forth. So it's that simple. If you're using Gutenberg and blocks, Cadence is an outstanding choice. We've used it with launch flows, WP Fusion, WooCommerce. Looks good, feels good, acts good. But if you're using a different page builder, especially Elementor and so forth, I recommend just going with Astra Free.
Mm-hmm.
Great results either way.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that answers, there was a follow-up question, why do you recommend that? So, yeah. Did you have a follow-up question yourself, John, or did you want to elaborate? Or?
Oh, I don't know. Have we finished the presentation part?
It was very fast today. I told you it was going to be like whiz, bang, boom, because what we can talk about is the details, or we can elaborate on these a little bit. Let's talk about, for example, drip emails. Digital marketer in particular, Ryan Dice and Perry Belcher, were very well known, still are, for their advice in that space. But there was a moment in time up until a couple of years ago, let's be honest about it, where email was not so noisy. So it was recommended, and also the technology was limited for what you could do on marketing automation on your website. Email was recommended as the mechanism to track people's consumption of content, to nurture them, to educate them. Because using a CRM like the old-fashioned Infusionsoft or Salesforce or HubSpot, they had the built-in capability to see if somebody saw an email, opened an email, and so on and so forth. Nowadays, we don't want to do that. We want to push people over to the party that is happening on your WordPress website, because using WP Fusion and your favorite CRM, you can see when somebody comes there, when they view a page, click a button, buy a product. You can use the benefits of WooCommerce and launch flows, like we talked about in videos 1 and 2, to create these sales funnels that allow you to specifically know, oh, somebody's coming in from this Facebook ad, and so therefore I'm not going to show them every product. I'm going to show them only the product that is related to what they just came from seeing. So forth.
Yeah, I think we've got another. I've got a question for myself, and I've got a question from Stephen, and he's going about another page builder. Is it Site Origin? I haven't used that for quite a while.
Site Origin, if I remember, is in the same realm as like Visual Builder, and it's a what I would think I'm fairly understanding, if I remember it correctly, because it's been a lot of years, is a first generation page builder. So the answer is kind of going to be an interesting one. If you're using Avada or Xtheme or Visual Builder or any of those Site Origin perhaps that are like first generation, I would give you a suggestion to try Elementor free or to try Gutenberg, because the nature of how those newer versions of the page editor.
Well, I'd say Gutenberg, but I think myself, I would advise somebody to use Gutenberg with Cadence, really.
Correct. Yeah.
And they've got the Cadence block plugin, and I just think you're going to have a better experience, aren't you?
The difference is twofold. Number one is that the old-fashioned builders were very clunky in the way, and again, maybe somebody's familiar with that and they prefer it, but you had to drill down through like 6 layers to do everything, right? You had a page with a box, and then click, I want to edit this box, and then in the box you got it. Whereas the new things work sort of at a single layer level. You can type on screen, or you click once and you're into the editorial. But the important part really is that the compatibility issues. If you're using an old-fashioned page builder or an old-fashioned theme like Avada or Xtheme, you're going to be running into problems with conflicts, because they've hard-coded into them things that are no longer proper, because they're trying to do things that are in the lane where the other plugins are operating. Like, for example, Avada puts in a ton of junk into a WooCommerce standard checkout page. And you just think, what's happening here? I just want WooCommerce. Well, it's because at some point in the past, it wasn't possible to do a lot with WooCommerce, so they figured they'd be helpful and write it into their theme. But now it acts as sort of a Frankenstein monster, because it's like, what? I have 3 legs. What's going on? You know.
the kind of feedback, well, Stephen's answering a little bit. He's going down a bit of a war and talking about PHP and blah, blah. But one of the questions or resistant points that I regularly get, Spencer, about utilizing the platform that we've been talking about in these 3 webinars is WooCommerce. And people say, I don't want to install WooCommerce because it's a nightmare. It slows the website. It's very difficult to maintain it. I don't want to use it. And I think I understand some of the resistance, because I just want to put this to see if you think I'm correct, is that there's a difference between using WooCommerce for e-commerce solution, where you got to worry that every time you update WooCommerce, the layout of my landing pages, of my product pages, going to change or not work, then using it as an engine to enable you to do modern marketing automation with something like Fluent CRM. I see there been a big difference. What's your views about that, and that resistance around using WooCommerce?
Well, it's a common misunderstanding. I'm going to be kind and say it's a misunderstanding, because it's like somebody you knew in high school and you had certain opinions about them, and then you meet them 25 years later and it's like, what? You're the CEO of General Electric? What the heck happened to you? WooCommerce was probably the most evolving plugin in the entire WordPress ecosystem, and now it's the #1 plugin. But the reason I would suggest to anybody who has a preconceived notion of the type you just described, reconsider, is because the truth as we sit here today is that WooCommerce is the one and only plugin I recommend everybody put into every WordPress installation. Obviously, if it's anything to do with registering and logging in users, not if it's just a blog. And here's why. WooCommerce, first of all, has the most eyeballs and coders on it of anything. And so it's improved enormously. It's in version 5 already. It was, probably in version 1, you didn't like it. In version 2, you're like, what's going on here? It is streamlined, slick, and up to date. But the things that it does out of the box would require you to custom code or put in a dozen other plugins. So even if you didn't use it for selling anything directly, just the onboarding of users is enough to say use it. The issues with slowness, while legitimate in the past, are completely no longer the case. It selectively loads all of the necessary code only where it's supposed to go. And it doesn't require you to do anything with regard to pre-built pages or themes. In fact, it is, I'll call it agnostic. It looks like an IRS tax form. I mean, it's black and white and red all over. That's it. And anything you put it into, it adapts the color scheme of the themes or the Elementor or other kind of page builder. So I think that what I want everybody to understand is that Gutenberg is an option as well. But that if you were to put in WooCommerce for everything as a transactional engine, and then you either had, as I talked about, Gutenberg with something like a Gutenberg plugin or Gutenberg with Cadence, or you had one of the other page builders, preferably Elementor with Astra, then you have a situation where those 3 working together with the other plugins like WP Fusion and launch flows, you have a stack of 4 or 5 things that is fast, bulletproof. It's yours. You own it and control it. And you don't have to come up with all these, how do I do these solutions? Because that's what we're talking about. Those 5 or so plugins and maybe the theme provide virtually everything like a team running around a racetrack that you need. And honestly, I think that's kind of like where WordPress should be. WordPress, we were talking about this on your show today, but WordPress should be like you come there and just like Wix or Weebly or Shopify or Squarespace, all the core stuff is already up and running. And WooCommerce,
that's
one of those things.
But that's what you get with WP-Tonic solution, isn't it? We provide really quality Google-based cloud hosting that is optimized for learning management systems, and then we provide all the plugins plus launch flows and cart flows and WooCommerce, and we set it up for the client. Plus, we have a chat to find out what they need after they've spoken to you. So that's exactly what we're trying to do at WP-Tonic. Now, also I get a lot of people saying to me by having conversations with them, Spencer, is I understand, but I've read all these articles and I've been on Facebook groups and I've been told I want to use Lifter LMS, or I want especially LearnDash. I need a membership plugin. That's the I should use. There's a number of them out there, isn't it? I need to use LearnDash with a membership plugin, and I don't want to use WooCommerce, and because of the reasons. And I totally agree with what you've just said. But
you build yourself into a problem. Let me give you a use case like just on that point. So somebody might come in and say, I'm using Lifter or LearnDash, which is terrific. But just like other plugins, Lifter and LearnDash have a capacity to either sell directly by connecting to your favorite gateway like Stripe, or maybe to connect to WooCommerce. And I suggest the better way is always to connect to WooCommerce. Here's why. Let's say you've got a membership site that has a course you can buy access to. Then it's got tickets you're selling to an event. Then it's got a shop where you're selling t-shirts and hats, okay? If you don't synchronize all those into one experience through checking out with WooCommerce, you're now asking your users to literally be in your store and go to this kind of checkout or that kind of checkout or this kind of checkout, and then you have 3 different carts or 3 different things feeding into your gateways versus all of them going centralized through WooCommerce. And only by centralizing them can you get all of the benefits of the marketing automation, the sales funnel, the tracking, even the accounting. And if you think about any real world store like a Costco, my God, it's not like you check out at the register at Costco. They don't send you to like another location to check out for this or check out for that. That's how stores work. And I think that's the important part, is that you always have the option to ignore and just don't use the individual plugins capacity to sell directly. Instead, run it all through WooCommerce.
Another area that causes a lot of people that I've spoken to confusion, both with Lifter LMS and LearnDash, and I'm going to focus on those two because I feel that they're clearly the 2 leaders in learning management systems. And a lot of people, well-known people in the WordPress community, say you don't have to use a learning management system. But I feel that if you're really serious in 2021 about building a membership e-learning platform, you really should look at, and both of these products are very
I mean, I'll interrupt you and say the decision factor when we're at WP Launchify about whether somebody should use an LMS is simple. Do you have more than 5 pages of content?
Oh, right.
Here's why. You don't need an LMS to put 5-6 pages with videos and lessons on it. It's when you need more than that you need the navigation, you need the search capability, you need to track people's progress, you need to add quizzes, you need to do like a group with, those are the capabilities that kick in like after you've just got a basic 5-step process. But if that's all you got, hey, just put a page up and like have 5 tabs on it with videos in it and you're good to go.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to explain it. So if I've lost the track of the question I was going to ask there. So you're using LearnDash and Lifter LMS, and as you're part of your, I have lost track of what I was going to say.
Let's talk about it in terms of launching. So what we're talking about today is that if you have a website built with the stack of stuff that we talked about in video 1 and 2, number 1, don't make the mistake of sending out drip emails for content to teach prospects about what you're selling. Instead, you make a website page or a post or a lesson where you put up a sales page, and the sales page is things like we've used here even. It's just this, hey, here's this free lesson today at lunchtime, blah, 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 blah. If you liked that, click here and you can get,
It's just come back to me what I was going to originally ask you. The area that causes a lot of people confusion when they're using something like Lifter LMS or LearnDash is setting up the login pages and the student dashboard. When you're using the setup that we're recommended, you recommend a third-party add-on to WordPress that enables you to customize the dashboard, isn't it? Is that correct?
I mean, we actually showed that in video number 2 or session 2. So when you're using WooCommerce, you get the benefit. As I was just mentioning, there's some core features baked in, even if you're not selling. One of them is to allow somebody to register and automatically log into your website. When you use that with launch flows, you can do that as a transaction, like a checkout, and it looks and feels like a registration, but it does more than you need it to in terms of like tracking the user's journey, because now you've tagged the person and you know they're interested in this or that, even if they haven't paid. Now, what happens is that they can be sent to the My Account area. WooCommerce has baked into it a very powerful account area that we use to consolidate all of the other plugin dashboards into one. So for example, BuddyBoss, Lifter, or LearnDash, or Affiliate WP, or if you're doing some other kind of events, all of those have their own capability of a dashboard. But what kind of insanity would it be for your user if they have to go the BuddyBoss dashboard and the LearnDash dashboard and the Events Manager and the Give WP? Instead, you can use the My Account area of WooCommerce, which already has a jillion ready-to-go plugins, accessories like the YITH Customize My Account, or you can use your page builder like Elementor, or you could use Gutenberg or whatever, or you can just use snippets. They have snippets of little, code functions. You don't have to be a coder. You can just grab them and put them into the snippets plugin so you can manage them. But that means you're basically able to achieve some incredibly powerful results with no coding, with no design skills. And the only reason that that's possible is because WooCommerce is kind of giving you the shell and all the mechanics to make that easy.
Right, that's great. Another area that seems to cause confusion, and it's linked to what you previously said in this webinar, is around these products, WP Fusion, Fluent CRM or Groundhog, and Uncanny Owls Automator. I regularly get asked how does we offer these as well on the WP. I have my own way of explaining what the differences and options are. How do you when you're asked about how those set of plugins, because it's the same problem, people go on to different websites, different Facebook pages, and they hear this and then they get very confused about how these plugins actually work in marketing automation.
What's the question? Sorry.
Good. How do you explain some of the differences? Why should somebody use like WP Fusion in your stack rather than using the native tagging system that comes with Fluent CRM or Groundhog?
Well, all right. So when it comes to the marketing automation side of things, let's explain so anybody who has not seen this in the earlier videos. You now have the capability to connect your WordPress site to your favorite CRM. So you've got the CMS, the content management capabilities of building anything you need, to a customer resource manager like your favorite one. And now in the outside world, the SaaS products are like, ActiveCampaign or Drip or Infusionsoft or HubSpot. But now we've got a plugin called Fluent CRM that also does an incredibly great job of doing it inside of your stack. But it's still conceptually separated from the main user base. So you got a user and then you got a contact. The contacts are essentially the name for the people who are users, but we're trying to track their journey by giving them tags. Okay, so the reason WP Fusion is such a revolutionary component here is because it's what connects your individual plugins together with any user to the CRM, whether it be local like Fluent or whether it be remote like ActiveCampaign. So when somebody is on the journey of, they saw the page where the Peloton bikes were and they clicked the button and they bought the product, they can get tags or custom field data that they share. Spence likes chocolate. Spence is from Chicago. And that gets used locally by the plugins he bought the product, to give him access. Here's his movie theater ticket. Or it gets sent to the CRM, either locally with Fluent or remotely with ActiveCampaign, so that the CRM can be using that information to trigger automations. If somebody buys the product and gets this tag, trigger an automation that sends certain emails or does these things over time. So as a system, WP Fusion is like a USB cable connecting the components on your WordPress side to your CRM, either internally or externally. And then all of the components together allow you to track and measure and deliver a personalized journey. Put that together with the email concept. Instead of having a million drip emails to teach people about something, put those up as individual pages on your website, either on their own or in a course. Then you'll be able to say in a very quick email, John, go check out this course. John, go check out this page. And then you won't have to spend all the time or make the person spend all their time in their email reading what the heck it is you're trying to teach them. They'll just go over to your health club where they see the person at the front desk. Hey, look, John sent me this link that gets me in the door, and I'm going to go check out the fun in the Peloton room. And then, you know,
the way I'm explaining it to people at the present moment, Spencer, is like they've agreed that they're going to use WooCommerce because it gives them all the options that we've discussed in these 3 sessions, plus the selling of physical products and even better coupon solutions. It just you're opening up all the power of WooCommerce and all the add-ons. But then I say, well, if we're going to use a CRM, we can go the native route, and that would be my recommendation. Be Fluent CRM.
Fluent CRM is definitely my recommendation.
I also, because we're going to be hosting your site, we also provide. Come on, Jonathan. We also provide WP Fusion, and it's just that WP Fusion is just going to offer you more options than if you use it with Fluent CRM, and it offers more options, more tagging. And the reason why we should be utilizing tagging instead of, if we don't go down this route, we still can use WooCommerce, but we just have to link a product to a subscription if we're using the WooCommerce subscription add-on. But we can move a step further up. I use tagging, and then by using tagging, we open the Pandora's box of marketing automation to a much higher level then, don't we?
I want to explain that there's also, as you're pointing out, there's another type of automation that happens. So in the world where WP Fusion is operating, you also have accessory automation plugins like If So, Uncanny Automator, and similar, where even inside of WooCommerce natively, where you can do things automatically based upon somebody's interaction with WooCommerce in particular. And that is to say, instead of worrying about, somebody viewed a lesson and added a tag or bought a product and added a tag, instead you can often just have direct automations or follow-ups from those plugins. For example, WooCommerce lets you have customized follow-up emails, or there's a plugin, a free plugin that lets you do WooCommerce follow-ups. You can use If So or Uncanny Automator to trigger things as well that are based upon where somebody is in the registration, login, purchase, receipt, post-purchase process. And so in doing it that way, the question to ask yourself, but they're equally efficient, is this something where in the future I need to know that you bought this product and I've gotten a tag for it? Or is this something that's only important because I want to show you something right now? Like maybe I put a badge on the screen that says, high five, Jonathan, you just bought this product or completed a lesson. For those types of automations, you can do them immediately with a different type of a plugin. Even like GamePress allows you to give badges or on-screen notifications. But for the long-term stuff, like, are you a subscribing member? You kind of want that information in a tag synchronized to your CRM so that you can follow up by segmenting out all the subscribers and sending them a particular type of a, automation.
Yeah, it does. And I say to them, because we're going to be providing WP Fusion Pro to them anyway, they might. I just see it. It just gives you more. It's a more mature tagging product that gives you much more tagging flexibility than using the native tagging ability of Fluent CRM. When it comes to Uncanny Hour, I see it as the Zapier of WordPress. It just things that if you have two plugins and they haven't built an add-on that allows communication, you can just there's probably a recipe and the increasing. I think the Uncanny Hour people are doing a really good job of increasing the amount of recipes that they're producing. So let me clarify one point to that. Yeah. One of the reasons, and you said it, but I want to just point this out for the listeners at this moment. So at this moment, Fluent is, I would say, early days, but really promising. I know you've been working with them, and you've been pointing out, you and your team, some of the, but they have been very proactive, haven't they? Okay, right, and that's the point. They're collaborative with the rest of us at WP Launchify and at WP Fusion and Launchflow, proactive about making a system where each independent plugin through their authors works like it's made to go with the other ones, but not because they were old-fashioned built together. But to my adding on to your point, Fluent CRM right now has a certain number of triggers that you can use. And at the present moment, they're not complete. So what'll happen is you will have some instances where there is an overlap. And this is a naturally occurring phenomenon when any plugin starts developing. So if right now you ask me, could I do everything with WP Fusion? I would say, yeah. Could you do everything for WooCommerce or a sales funnel with Fluent CRM natively? I'd say not yet. So when you're using Fluent CRM at the moment with the Pro version, I recommend that actually people try to use as much native Fluent CRM stuff as possible. Fill in with the WP Fusion. For every other CRM though, let's say you're using ActiveCampaign or Infusionsoft, that's where this is a different conversation, because Fluent CRM being a native WordPress plugin is singularly unique, maybe with the exception of Groundhog, but it's singularly unique compared to a SaaS CRM of being able to actually track natively WooCommerce behavior and use it as a trigger. So it's only with Fluent CRM that you could say, well, maybe you don't need WP Fusion. But for everything else, the answer is, yeah, you kind of should use WP Fusion. Ta-da. Yeah, I still think if, obviously, because I'm kind of viewing it as WP-Tonic because we're providing it as part of our stack. You might as well, obviously, if you're not using WP-Tonic, it's more of a bigger decision because of the price, even though WP Fusion for what you get is still excellent value, isn't it? I mean, the way this breaks down, and more so coming up, because we've talked about this before, is that everybody is coming into this from a different place of experience. But I would say there's very few people that are at the level of knowing, and I'm not saying this to say we're so smart, but rather this is literally cutting edge stuff. Nobody's at the position to understand day to day, what are the new features? What are the new things that have come up of this stack of 6 to 12 plugins? Because I'm in the author position. I'm in the communicating with all the other authors position. And even I am shocked day to day when I get calls from all Jack's customers at WP Fusion. Oh, Jack, did you just add that? And he says, oh, sorry, I didn't tell you. I just added it 5 minutes ago. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But the point is that actually happens, like I said. So when somebody comes in who isn't experienced, step one is understanding the basic concepts of the stack that we've been talking about in these webinars. Number two is understanding that if you go with this stack, you can not only discover it, but you can get direct hands-on help immediately from somebody with the first level of experience of what these plugins are being built for today, and also has the ability to literally go, hey, can you fix this, tweak that? And by doing that, you save yourself an infinite amount of pain, because
Could you imagine if you wanted to go a Hollywood movie and you could get on the phone and be like, hey, can you have Tom Cruise in this? And listen, he's going to be wearing a leather jacket. And I want, like, you have first person opportunity to not only have somebody do what you need, but also show you and teach you in a matter of an hour what might take you weeks or months on your own. And then finally, as you indicated, if you realize like, wow, this was fast and efficient, and even if I spent some money from a higher level, I can actually have some experienced team give me a package like John is talking about, where everything is already built into the price. And there's some people that can help run it, you know, not only construct it, but run it. And that's an opportunity that I think everybody should consider seriously when you compare it to what it'll take you with all your time, all your research, and all your mistakes to try to do it on your own. And finally, compare that to, which is unfortunately true, but not because they're bad people. There are an infinite number of WordPress theme people out there, okay, that know how to do a pretty website. That is completely different from what we're talking about, because what you need here has nothing to do with the theme you choose or the color scheme you choose or what it looks like. This has to do with the mechanics under the hood. And there is nobody in a better position than us to just talk about this because of what I've just described. So
Yeah.
you know.
But it's just a difficult position, because it's saying, some people say you're bashing MemberPress or you're bashing this and that. Not at all.
I don't think so.
Not at all. We're just pointing out that if you really want to utilize marketing automation on the WordPress platform, that we honestly feel that the solutions that we're talking about in these webinars are the most powerful, future-proof, flexible solutions that we think that are on the market at the present moment, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And the point is, this isn't a right or a wrong. And I don't know where this whole conversation about bashing comes up. But for example, I'm familiar with the author of MemberPress or any of the other plugins like Paid Membership Pro. Those plugins serve a tremendous purpose even today,
Yeah.
But they're, even though I'm going to call them legacy, the reason they're legacy is that there is a huge number of people that don't need or want to do marketing automation.
No, exactly.
And so for those people, then maybe this conversation is slightly different, which, by the way, is one of the reasons why we're trying to educate through this webinar and through the WP Launchify, why you should go and get your own custom report of, what do I need? It's like a recipe to go to the grocery store, so you don't sit there wandering the aisles or buying the wrong thing.
I'm so happy that you've said that, actually, because we do, in our own consultation, when they sign up, they have a consultation with me as part of the onboarding exercise. And if they're really committed to using LearnDash, and they're really not interested in marketing automation or future proofing, we normally recommend that we use it with MemberPress, and we do provide MemberPress as part of our platform. But normally after, they normally are interested in marketing automation, but you do have to make that decision, don't you, Spencer?
Yes. I mean, I would say that if you look at the cost of WP Fusion, launch flows, the other LMS choice, whatever, your total stack cost per year for an annual renewing is usually between $600 and $1,200 a year for all the plugins. If you do lifetime deals, that becomes even more attractive, as we were talking about on your show today. But the cost of that is a fraction of what you'll benefit if you're actually selling products by having marketing automation in place. My gosh. How much could you afford to lose knowing that Spence from Chicago, who's been here 12 times, likes yellow and chocolate, is on your site versus some stranger is on your website? I mean, really? Could you date like that? Could you have a relationship like that where you know nothing about the person? So why do you think you can sell like that? You can't. So pay the $247 or get a discount price or do an offer for a lifetime, but get the marketing automation, get the sales funnel tool, put in the free WooCommerce, get the subscription plugin. And by the way, when you use WP Launchify consultatively, whether you use our help or you use our ready to go bundle, you get all those plugins in the initial, technical sandbox, so that you can actually see and experience which are the right things I should do. Like going to a tuxedo factory, you get to try on all the stuff before you buy it. That's the whole idea,
Yeah, I think it's time to wrap this up. I think it's been a good webinar and a good educational discussion. Thanks for those that have asked questions, and we'll probably see you next month with another looking at this whole subject. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.
Bye, guys.